You are the friends of Allah. Why? Because this is one of the most abused, in my opinion, abused terms in our culture. Awliyaullah, awliya, the people that are friends of Allah. We use this term in our culture for, in Urdu they say bahut pahunchi hui personality, bahut pahunche hue log hain. In other words, they've got some high status. They are so close to Allah. They're like on the 150th floor. You live in the basement. They're way more connected to Allah than you are. So man, you can never reach their level, right? Those are the awliya of Allah. So when they walk in, you should just humble yourself, and you should, run to get their whatever divine wisdom they have to drop on you, right? So listen to how Allah describes awliya Allah, and this is what I'll conclude my khutbah with today. Allah Azza wa Jal says, this is ayah number 62 and 63 of Surah Yunus, right? He says, Ala inna awliya Allahi la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun alladhina amanu wa kanu yattaqun. So simple. How do I become a wali of Allah? Well, here's a 1,000-step process. No, in the Quran, it's not a 1,000-step process. It's a 2-step process. He says, you had better know the friends of Allah, the protective friends of Allah. They will have no fear on them. They will not be sad. How do I become a friend of Allah? Simple. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. They came to the faith. They came to believe in Allah and His Messenger and His revelations, and then they continuously, كَانَ يَتَّقِي كَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ كَانَ plus مضارع, continuous. They kept on engaging in taqwa. They kept on being mindful of Allah. They became mindful of Allah when they could have cheated at work. They became mindful of Allah when they could have lied about something. They became mindful of Allah when they guarded their eyes. They became mindful of Allah when they held back from saying something terrible. They became mindful of Allah when they chose not to backbite against somebody. They became mindful of Allah when they could have responded with an insult and they responded with kindness instead. They became mindful of Allah over and over and over. These are the people that are the friends of Allah. And these people could be wearing a t-shirt. They don't have to have a turban on. These people could, be a high school kid. They don't have to have a white beard. They could be the awliya of Allah. Allah did not put a high, holy, sacred standard for what does it mean to be Allah's friend. He made it so fundamental and simple, and that is the revolution of Islam. That is actually revolutionary. Anybody can be the friend of Allah with meeting some very basic requirements. الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. There's no additional requirements. لَهُمُ الْبُشْرَى فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. These people will have good news in this life and in the next life. Done. There's no further requirements. Iman and taqwa. And what did I tell you about iman and taqwa? Only you can know where you stand. Only I can know where I stand. Nobody else can judge that for us. So I pray we don't become victims to popifying and creating artificial sacredness and supporting that kind of artificial sacredness. We should benefit from people that know more than us. We should learn from scholars, learn from people that have better character than we do, learn from their manners, learn from their adab. All of that should continue. But not for a single moment should we consider anyone in a place where we assume they have a higher taqwa than the rest of us. This is not what we do for ourselves, and we don't do this for others because it leads to many, many, many problems. And it takes us away from the actual spirit and message of the Quran. May Allah Azza wa Jalla make us the kinds of thinkers and the kinds of muttaqeen and the kinds of believers that Allah wants us to be in light of His word.